So I finally went out and saw Catching Fire on Sunday, and it's Tuesday now. It just came out in the U.S. recently, and I was out in Europe earlier. So I thought I'd do my review slash impressions video while it's still fairly fresh in my mind. I know some of you out there might be thinking, "Gee, I thought I already reviewed Catching Fire and that I hated it." Well, what I have to say to that is that when you watch a video and there's a huge annotation throughout at the beginning of the video saying to please watch the entire video before leaving a comment, that means you should probably watch the entire video before leaving a comment. That goes to whether you hate the Hunger Games and agreed with what I was saying, or if you like the Hunger Games and disagreed with what I was saying. When there's a huge sign on the front of the video saying, please watch the entire video before commenting, you should probably listen to it. Alright? That's all I have to say about that. Now, as for the movie, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot. They did a really great job with it. I enjoyed it a lot. Definitely better than the first one, and they did a good job with the first one. Uh, I feel like they had a lot. They felt a lot more at ease. Actually, like not. The first movie had a lot of kind of like don't look, kind of turn away moments in terms of how they handled the violence. This time they not so much. I feel I can understand why they did that because making the movie like taking the approach they did with the violence. Well, first off, you don't want to sort of glorify the violence too much and sort of make it like you know it sort of ruins the point of what the story is. Uh, and it's really easy to fall into that and sort of betraying the message of the book and the story. Um, and plus, it made it more commercially viable. Especially when you have something that it's like teen and up. You're gonna have. I think a lot of people, younger people especially, were able to see the movie that otherwise would not have had parental approval if it was more violent. But that being said, it's still within the PG-13 rating. It's not gratuitously violent. It's not tasteless or anything. But it's a little more true to the book. It's not so much held back. I enjoyed it tremendously. Specifically, no, I mean, and the thing is, because the books are first person present tense, uh, there was a lot they could move away from Katniss's perspective. They did this well with the first movie, where they were able to show a lot of the stuff that was going on the the control room where they're controlling the games from. You can see these conversations between Seneca Crane and President Snow. That's new canon, and it added to the story. And it was a lot of book to movie adaptations suffer from them having to cut out a lot of stuff. With the Hunger Games and with Catching Fire, and surely probably with the rest of the series, is going to benefit from this as well because of the perspective change. While you can't put in everything and have the movie be a reasonable length, you could add in a lot of stuff that the book wasn't able to have. So I enjoyed all the new stuff, like the stuff with Snow and his granddaughter. Like the granddaughter, I think is mentioned in Mockingjay, but she never actually appears as a character. Uh, that was a really great addition. The scenes where what's really creepy is the scene where President Snow is watching the Hunger Games, watching people murder each other on television. He just is sitting there watching it with his daughter. But it really I showed how I guess how no, it was just the character and the writing they did with the shade between Snow and his granddaughter was great. And I thought this after I watched it, but then I listened to the whoever it was. I don't know the people's names on the Hunger Games Fireside Chat podcast, but one of them said this too, and I was saying this coming out the theater. A lot of these movies, where you have there are movies that are sort of like in a domestic setting, and like the main character will have an antagonist, but he's more of sort of a rival or a peer. But the movies where like there's a dictator or a dark lord or something like that, like Voldemort in the Harry Potter series, for instance. Uh, a lot of those kind of villains, the villain will be kind of almost will essentially be superhuman. Uh, the and what they've done, but with the scenes with Snow and the granddaughter, it sort of shows that have a big villain. He's like the dictator of a police state, and you're showing his domestic life, and that it's human stuff like, oh, he's just sitting watching TV with his granddaughter. You know, um, I think that's something that I think uh, really sort of sets us apart. I hope to see a lot more stuff like that in Mockingjay. And they're splitting that into two films, so they'll certainly have enough time for that. Um, a lot of, I think, I mean, I enjoyed the Hunger Games. I enjoyed I read the whole trilogy of the Hunger Games. I read all three books. I enjoyed the story, but I think there are some flaws in the way she handles some elements of the story. I think there's some things in the story that certainly absolutely can be improved upon, and the movie actually took those opportunities and improved upon them. For instance, I think the movie handled the depiction of the victory tour better than the book did. I think so. Um, I think, and it did a perfectly good job, and it didn't contradict what was seen in the book. But I feel like the movie depict more. I mean, the District 11 scene, that was heart wrenching. I think that they did that well. That was straight from the book, pretty much. But the scene, like when they showed the montage of the rest of the victory tour, handled it better than I think Suzanne Collins did in the book. And part of that, to an extent, might be because Katniss is our narrator in that, so she's certain details she's not going to care about or care to express to or something. So that's another element of it, is just the perspective and what Katniss personally does or doesn't care about mentioning or talking about. Um, but I feel like the movie did handled ultimately the victory tour better than the book did. Um, like they added excellent stuff. Like one of the districts where she's giving the speech, one of the they have a couple little girls come up on stage and give Katniss flowers, and one of them says, "When I grow up, I'm gonna be a volunteer tribute just like you." And I like the whole theater was like, like you could hear the gasp throughout the theater, and you could see like how it well, I have to see it again, but I just remember. I know I was shocked by that. I was not expecting that. That was a brilliant bit of writing there. Uh, I was very that was a nice little piece of writing there, and it's good to have surprises for people who've read the book. But yeah, that's really taking advantage of the medium, because that's something they could have put in the book. If they put that in the book, I don't think it would have been as effective as in the movie. Um, they're they work things in, like in the book. She's in the mayor's office because her friends, the mayor's daughter, and she oversees like this special TV that only the mayor's allowed to see, and talking about the riots that are going on and the uprisings in the various districts. And this one, they moved like that there's like a regiment of peacekeepers on board her train as security, and she walks by like the security car, like and like the doors open and she sees a glimpse of the TV, and like them like it shows a map of all the different rebellions going on, and the peacekeepers like shut the door real quick. That was a good way to work that in a way that uh, I was really happy with. I was happy with pretty much everything. The I think one scene they kind of I wish they had like this kind of goes into the Hunger Games a bit. They didn't play up the spoilers here, the supposed destruction of District 13 well enough. Like I remember in the Hunger Games when they're in the Reaping, when they're watching the propaganda movie, the narrator says, there was a terrible war. 13 districts rebelled against the country that fed them, and then later on, and it says, so when the war was over, it was decreed that the various districts of Panem. No, what would have been really clever is if they said, earlier on the narrator says, 13 districts rebelled, and then later on to say like, and peace was declared, and so it was agreed that the 12 districts of Panem, just sort of glossing over the fact that the capital destroyed one of the districts, just sort of brush that off. I wish they had dropped a couple more hints in the mentions of District 13's supposed destruction during the Hunger Games movie. In no, excuse me, in Catching Fire in the book, there's this whole subplot where Katniss, she meets these two people in the woods that are supposedly looking for District 13, and there's this really great plot. When I read it, it was really like, really got my interest. There was this plot where, she realizes that the Capitol is using stock footage of District 13, and that this footage might be like 70 years old, and that they might have rebuilt it since then, and the Capitol's keeping it a secret. You know, in the movie, how they do to handle this in the movie, they did a good job, but I think there's a problem with what they did. When Snow is in Katniss's house in the Victor's Village, and she's talking to him, it's like, do you want a war? Do you want more districts destroyed, like how we destroyed District 13 in the last rebellion? Yeah, he mentioned that. Drops reference to how the Capitol destroyed District 13 during the rebellion 75 years ago, supposedly. There's a problem with that. It's going to be a problem it's going to be a problem for the ending of Mockingjay, because in the book and in the movie, President Snow first thing says, "We're okay. You and me, we're going to make a deal. We are not going to lie to each other. We don't like each other, but I am not. We are not going to lie to each other." And that plays into really heavily into the ending of the series, pretty much, about how the war concludes, and Katniss confronts President Snow again, and they have another conversation, and you know the theme of President Snow agreed not to lie to Katniss, and that's a theme that plays heavily into the ending. President Snow said that, and then proceeded to mention, do you want your district destroyed like how we destroyed District 13? That's a problem, because President Snow knows that they did not really destroy District 13. That District 13, was able to got control of the nuclear weapons that the Capitol was keeping there, and that was able to force a deal by which the Capitol leaves District 13 alone, while District 13 plays dead and lives in their underground bunker with nukes pointed towards the Capitol. President Snow knows that District 13 wasn't destroyed, but he tells Katniss that. So, in a sense, the realization that District 13 does still exist, now Snow is untrustworthy, because in the movie, he's an evil person. He's a sinister dictator. He's a tyrant. He's a murderer. But he's a war criminal. But he did not lie to Katniss after he agreed. You and I, let's not lie to each other. He didn't say anything from that point on to her that is not true. Essentially. And by lying about District 13, it kind of breaks that theme a bit. But I don't know. From the perspective of someone who doesn't know anything about the movies, I don't think there was the only main flaw I'd say in the movie was that they didn't establish enough that just the existence of District 13 is supposed to be a huge surprise. Along those lines, I think when the airship comes down to rescue Katniss from the Quarter Quell, I think it would have been what they should have did. The airship, the hovercraft, the District 13's hovercraft looks exactly like the ones the Capitol is using. I think it would have been cool if the airship District 13 was obviously a different model, an older looking, more shabby looking ship than the ones the Capitol has, because everything all their ships and weaponry, all that stuff's like 75 years old or older, so like if they have these ships from the First War nearly 80 years ago. I think they'd look a little less advanced than what the Capitol is using. Yeah, that would have been a cool touch. But the stuff they added, like in the party, when President Snow drinks from the wine, you see like the blood wash back into the wine. That was excellent, and they did not have to add that. And if they didn't, I would not have thought that was a great thing they added. Works perfect. It's a bit of foreshadowing in the movie that because Katniss is always saying in the books that President Snow's breath smells like blood. They were not able to really express that in the movie, but this is a way to drop that hint there. So that's a cool bit of foreshadowing they were able to add in. I understand why, but by the end of the movie, I was pretty sick of the Pan Am National Anthem. They played it. They must have. I'm gonna have next time I see it in that movie. I'm gonna count how many times the national anthem is used in the movie. It's used for basically everything the Capitol does or doesn't do. They play the national anthem for it, and I know that's pretty much in line with how the Capitol acts and how a dictatorship acts. Where they bombard you with the state, the glory of the state, and the dictatorship, and patriotism, and so they play the national anthem constantly. That was one of the things I wish they had. They did this in the Hunger Games. They didn't do it at all, I think, in Catching Fire. They did a little bit with Snow when he's watching some things TV at home. I wish they had more of like the people in District 12, the people in the districts, or even the people in the Capitol, their reactions watching TV. Like what I hoped, actually, when I filmed the Hunger Games is the worst movie ever thing, how I did the ending to that video, I did that in anticipation of how I thought they'd show Katniss escaping from the Quarter Quell, and that I wanted them like to have a cutaway shot when the helicopter's raising Katniss out of the people in District 12 like watching this on TV and be like, oh my god, she's escaping the Hunger Games. She's broken their system, and then the power goes out. No, like then like the TV cuts out and it's like a test pattern with like the flag and the national anthem. Then the power cuts out. Then you hear like the planes coming in and bombing them. Like I thought that's how they'd film it, and I think that would have been really great. We might see flashbacks of that in Mockingjay for all I know. But for instance, when they're doing on the interviews of the tributes, like everything was just excellent. I just like the acting, the special effects are obviously they had a way bigger budget for it, but when all the tributes like hold hands and like they cut the power off on stage and in the auditorium where they're filming the show, that's one way to express like the Capitol is like, oh shit, we've lost control of the messages. They're sending a message of the districts uniting. Cut the power. Cut the message. So the people at home don't see it. I think that would have been more effective if at home they showed the people at home watching, like the people like in the districts, like seeing that and like reacting like, oh my gosh, and then they just cut to test pattern. I think that would have been a more effective way to show that. Because I've actually written something where uh, someone's on stage giving a speech, and someone sabotages. Like they're in a sports stadium and they're giving a speech, and someone, a villain who doesn't want their speech to be broadcast, like has a remote control. They press a button, and across everyone watching at home, all of a sudden it just switches to like a test pattern. Um, but the thing is, like the people, the person actually was in the stadium. He kept on talking. The people in the stadium don't realize that they've cut the broadcast on on television. So I thought that would have been a cool touch if like the people in the auditorium didn't even realize the broadcast had been cut, because you don't have to cut the power on stage to stop the broadcast. But yeah, that's a little nitpickiness. I thought the bread code, like when they send the tributes, the bread in the Quarter Quell is the code to know when to use to set up the wire to cause the stadium to self destruct. I thought they could have had that, but about the Quarter Quell itself, I think one change I think they should have made. I think that when Katniss is going up in the tube and she's being launched into the arena, and you see the guards come in and beat up Cinna and drag them away. I think they should have. It worked in the book. I think in the movie, I think they should have showed just like a split second of them just shooting him in the head. Like I think they should have just explicitly showed that they've killed him. Um, because I think for people who haven't read the books, it's like kind of ambiguous, and I think the intended effect would have been, I think, better if they just showed them killing him right before she goes up into the arena. I think that's about everything I could think of that I had to say about it. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna go see it again. And oh, actually, I mentioned in the parody, like the joke review I did of Catching Fire that I got to see the movie for free. That part is actually true. I hadn't seen it at the time I filmed that, but I actually I do have a friend who works at the theater, so he's able to get me and my other friends in for free actually. So I did actually see the movie for free. I guess next time I will in fact actually pay for it. It's funny because the theater, like they don't even like check. Some theaters are really militant. They check your bag for see if you brought in candy or something. It's like, yeah, you could just go in and like get a bunch of candy from Dollar Tree and like bring it in, and they don't even really check you. So next time I'm gonna go get some candy and from Dollar Tree or whatever. Yeah, and confetti. I've said some raffle tickets. I've been messing around tearing with the filming this. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Catching Fire. I can't wait to go see it again. Well, I can actually wait because I'm gonna go see it next week sometime. So that's it for now, and thanks for watching.